Hello, everybody. My name is Roy Nemmer of Mundo Albiceleste.com, and welcome to another video. And this time around, we are going to talk about someone that everybody loves, myself included, and that is Paulo Dybala. We are going to talk about Dybala's trajectory with the national team, what's going on, the tournaments he has missed, the tournaments he has taken part of, and of course, the 2022 World Cup. So let's get to it. At one point, Paulo Dybala was considered as the future of the Argentina national team, the next big superstar after Lionel Messi. And if we go back about 10 years ago or 8 years ago, who can blame us? He was playing very well for Palermo, so much so that Juventus bought him and he became a focal point of that team, a very important player, an integral part of their attack. But that hasn't always translated into success for him in regards to the national team. Dybala had been playing well since 2012, really, ever since joining Palermo, and obviously before then in Argentina. But ever since he made the jump to Europe in 2012 with Palermo, he was playing well. Yet he had to wait about 3 years before making his national team debut. He debuted in 2015 against Paraguay in a World Cup qualifier at home, and the first couple of matches he was a substitute, and that's normal, that's fine, especially for someone that's just making their debut. But after that, injuries started to hit. So he would get injured, he would get selected, he'd get injured, and he was not called up for the 2016 Copa America. He had missed March 2016 matches for Argentina due to injury. So in March of 2016, Argentina had 2 matches and he missed both of them due to injury. A couple of months later, there's the Copa America in the United States. At that point, Dybala is back, he's training, he's playing, and he's playing very well for Juventus, but does not get called up for the Copa America. So not only does he completely miss 2015, because at that point he wasn't even called up, period, he gets called up, injured, playing again for Juventus, and misses 2016 Copa America. And a lot of people, myself included, thought, okay, well, after 2016, we're going to start to get that big change with the national team. A lot of players are going to retire. They're going to step aside. We're going to get some new blood, some fresh faces. And certainly, Dybala has to be part of that group. And to a certain degree, he was. But it was a lot of start and go for Dybala, because every time he would play for Argentina, he would play 2 matches. And then the next 2 matches after that, the next month or a couple of months later, he would be injured. So he was ridden with the injury bug from the get-go, especially when it comes to his Argentina national team career. And when he was playing for Argentina, it was mostly as a substitute. In his first 5 matches with the national team, he played a total of 154 matches, which evens out to about 30 minutes per game. 30 minutes per game as a substitute is all well and good, don't get me wrong. If you're Paulo Dybala, maybe you're expecting more of yourself, but still respectable numbers for a substitute. And then we get a big game, a massive game, not only in South America, but the entire world. And that's a World Cup qualifier between Argentina and Uruguay. And it's taking place in Argentina. And Paulo Dybala starts. And Paulo Dybala plays well. And Paulo Dybala, unfortunately and unfairly, in my opinion, gets red carded. So his first match where he's starting and he's shining, and the eyes are on him, unlucky to get red carded. It doesn't really faze him, or doesn't appear to faze him or the coach, because while he serves that 1-game suspension, the 2 games after that he does play. So the first match back versus Peru, he plays about 65 minutes, and then after that against Paraguay, he plays 32 minutes. So not bad numbers for Dybala, especially coming back from that red card. But then more injuries, and he ends up missing the next couple of matches for Argentina, some of which were against Brazil and against Colombia. And at this point, I remember speaking to some friends and just kind of saying, I'm not disappointed in Dybala. It's not him. I just feel like, he's unlucky. He's unlucky because everyone's talking about him and the media loves to talk about him. And we all did, and we still do. But the eyes are on Messi, and he constantly gets compared to Messi. So when Dybala plays, whether he plays 5 minutes or 90 or whatever it is, it's always, he didn't score a goal, or he hasn't scored a goal yet, or how is he connecting with Messi? Is he playing well with Messi? Because at that point, the national team, it's sad to say, especially considering the history of the national team, the focus was on Messi. And we are far, very far from having the same national team now as we did in 2016 or 2017 when Dybala was still, debuting for the national team and getting his first couple of games. So the focus was on Dybala to see how can he perform with Argentina because he's performing well with Juventus. So after that, after the run of couple of matches where he missed out due to injuries, he gets to play friendly matches. And one of the friendly matches was against Brazil. And at this point, we're in 2017. So we are just shy of 2 years from Dybala making his national team debut. And he has yet to play 90 minutes for Argentina. And he plays versus Brazil. Argentina win 1-0. It's a friendly match. And then finally, the next match, he plays his first 90 minutes against Singapore. So he plays against Singapore. It's a 6-0 win for Argentina. A couple of months later, we get some World Cup qualifiers, and we are in the last 4 matches in these World Cup qualifiers. And everybody remembers what a roller coaster ride that was to qualify for Russia. So the next 2 World Cup qualifiers are against Uruguay and Venezuela, and he starts both matches. No goals, no assists. Put that aside. His overall play is not bad. It's really not bad. But maybe potentially you would expect more from Dybala. Although, to be fair, it wasn't just Dybala that was not playing at an extremely high level. That team was lacking confidence. The coaching was a little bit all over the place. And no one really was playing great aside from a handful of people, obviously including Lionel Messi. So Dybala is trusted in the first 2 of 4 World Cup qualifiers, and then we get to the last 2. The last 2 against Peru at home and Ecuador away from home, and Dybala is on the bench for both matches. So clearly he did not impress Sampaoli. Whether Sampaoli's judgment was on point or not, that's a whole other subject. But Dybala did not impress Sampaoli enough to get the start or even to play a single minute in those 2 matches because he didn't. Now, Messi did, and Messi scored that hat-trick against Ecuador, which will forever live in the annals of time. But for Dybala, it has to get a little bit worrying because you're part of the team, you're in the 11, you're not in the 11, you're playing, and then you're not playing, even though you're part of the team. And the World Cup is just around the corner, at that point. For Argentina, we get some friendly matches. And we get some friendly matches against Russia and against Nigeria. And that is about a month after having qualified for the World Cup. The first match against Russia, Dybala comes on as a substitute and does not even play 5 minutes. He's subbed on, plays a handful of minutes. The next match versus Nigeria, plays the majority of the match, and forget the outcome of the results. A 1-0 win versus Russia, 4-2 loss against Nigeria. That's neither here nor there, but that just gives you an idea maybe of the coaching and where that team was mentally, physically, on the pitch, the game plan, whatever you want to call it, where that team was at that point. And after that, and this is the crazy part, not in terms of Dybala, but this was the coaching staff at the time. Argentina have 2 more friendly matches before the World Cup, or technically 3. And the first 2 are against European giants, Italy and Spain, and Dybala is not part of the team. Dybala is not part of the team for those 2 matches. And at this point, people start thinking, myself included, are we even going to get a Paulo Dybala for the national team at the World Cup? Is he ever going to play at a World Cup at this point? Is he ever going to play at a tournament for Argentina at this point? He does get called up. So Dybala gets called up for Russia. We know the debacle there. We're not even going to talk about it. He plays in 1 match, about 20 minutes or so against Croatia. We're not going to get into that. And then Sampaoli leaves, and Lionel Scaloni comes in, and there's a lot of talk of, now this has to be Dybala's team. right? He has to get a chance. He has to do well. We're getting a lot of changes at that point in the team. A couple of players had stepped aside and retiring. Dybala gets called up by Scaloni, and Dybala starts to get not only regular matches for Argentina, but regular minutes. And he starts to play a lot to the point where he gets another 90-minute match. He plays 90 minutes against Iraq, and at this point, everyone is still kind of waiting. When's he going to get his goal? When is he going to get his well-deserved goal? So Dybala plays 5 consecutive matches for Argentina, which at that point pretty much had never been done in his career. And he gets the first goal of his national team career, and that one came against Mexico. And ironically enough, he only played 9 minutes. So he played less than 10 minutes versus Mexico and got his first goal. And Scaloni had just replaced Sampaoli, and he was an interim coach, and he had just kind of signed on to become a permanent coach, at least until the Copa America. So he was tinkering as well, and he was trying out some different players and some different formations. So a lot of players were in and out of the starting 11, but Dybala was kind of more in than out. So for the first time in his career, he was getting regular minutes. And we're all excited, and we're all waiting to see the Copa America's coming up. Yes, we have a new coach. We're not the favorites to win it, but still, this looks like a very interesting and exciting group of players led by, yes, Messi, but you see Dybala slowly starting to turn it on for Argentina, and he's getting that confidence. And it's always good when you have a player that needs that confidence, especially someone like Dybala, who has been injured for a large part of his career and at key times as well, and very, very unfortunate. I love Dybala. If you guys have watched me talk about him, and we do at length every time we do, especially the live discussions. I love him. I've just always said he's been unlucky. He's been unlucky for various different reasons. He plays well at Juventus, then gets injured. He plays well at Juventus, and then they get a big signing, and the team kind of shifts its style of play, maybe to fit that player, and maybe doesn't suit Dybala 100%. And then Dybala starts to play well, and then he gets hit with COVID. So he's been very, very unlucky. And the big talk has always been kind of, well, can he play with Messi? Right? Because apparently, if you can't play with Messi, what people say and what people think is, well, if you can't play with Messi, what are you doing with Argentina? You'll never play. And I have always found that silly. I have always found it ridiculous because Dybala has immense talent, and he can play with anybody, including Messi, and he has shown it. He has shown it. But when you're hit with that many injuries, and we haven't even spoken about the different coaches he has played under. I mean, you're talking about Martino, Bauza, Sampaoli, Scaloni. You're talking about 4 coaches in about the first 3 years of his national team career. And, confidence-wise as well, and he's still starting up with the national team. So that's always been an unfair criticism that I have found towards Dybala and towards anyone really that's kind of made their debut during those dark years of the national team. I call them dark years because I don't think there's any other way of calling it. Dybala under Scaloni starts to get a lot of minutes. And then once the whole pandemic hits and Dybala gets hit with COVID, and at this point, he's not only in and out of the Argentina team, but he's in and out of the Juventus team because of the injuries and because of COVID. And he misses a large, large part of the World Cup qualifiers for Argentina. He missed most matches. He wasn't even part of the team for most matches for those reasons. And I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. The talent has always been there for Dybala. And it's very exciting to see him play now. And I'm going to talk about his role and what he's doing with Roma right now under Mourinho. He's just been unlucky. We go back to it. It's the injuries. It's everything else. And finally, we get to the Copa America last year. And people are waiting, well, is Dybala going to be included? And he's not. And that was a big surprise, I think, for a lot of people. And it showed the kind of coach that Scaloni is. And I don't mean this in a bad way at all. Quite the opposite. Scaloni appears to be the type of coach where I don't care what kind of a name you are. If you're a big name, if you're not a big name, if you're not called up. And that's what happened with Dybala. Unfortunately for him, he missed out on the Copa America Fortunately for everyone, well, for us, Argentina won the Copa America. So Dybala has about a year left to prove himself to get to the World Cup, right? He wants to make the World Cup. It's his goal. It's his dream once more to play in a World Cup and play more than the 20 minutes that were given to him against Croatia. Dybala is finally back in the team in September of last year. So literally 1 year ago, Dybala finds himself back in the team after the Copa America. He comes on as a substitute, plays about 10 minutes versus Venezuela, a 3-1 win for Argentina. Great. And then the next couple of matches, injuries hit once more. And again, it's a recurring theme. And it's frustrating. As frustrating as it is for us, as frustrating as it is for Scaloni and the coaching staff, just imagine how frustrating it could be, or it is, for Dybala. But Dybala continued to show his resilience. He never gave up. He came back, and he came back stronger. Why? Well, he was called up for the Finalissima, and I went on record and I said, look, these two matches, he has to play well. Like, this is put up or shut up. Argentina versus Italy, Argentina versus Estonia. He has to deliver in training. He has to impress. Not because I doubt him, not because I don't think anybody doubts him, but because this is ultimately, or chances are ultimately, his last chance of impressing to get to the World Cup. And I said, if you go back in one of the videos, I said Dybala just needs that little bit of luck to go his way, and he's going to run with it. And boy, has he ran with it. Comes on as a substitute in the Finalissima versus Italy, plays about a minute and scores. And the joy on his face, and the joy, I think, on every Argentina fan's face, I think we were smiling from ear to ear. Not just because of the goal, and not just because Argentina had officially won the Finalissima, but you're happy for Dybala. You're happy for Dybala, the player, and you're very, very happy for Dybala, the person, for Paulo Dybala, just because imagine the pressure that's on him. Starts to make a name for himself about 10 years ago in Argentina, moves to Italy. You have the pressure of people calling you the next Messi, and here to Messi, and he's going to be the next big superstar, as I mentioned. So you have all that pressure and all that talent, and you're delivering. Don't get me wrong, you're delivering, and then you get just constantly hit with injuries and bad luck. Bad luck at his club, and then it gets to the point where management doesn't even want him. Like, Juventus doesn't want to keep him reportedly because of his salary, and from what was being mentioned in the media, like borderline to a certain degree, not struggling to find a club, but there were not that many suitors willing to pay, reportedly, what he was asking for. And I spoke about this on Twitter, and we spoke about this a little bit on the live discussion. I was very happy when he signed with Roma. I was extremely happy because, well, for several reasons. One is the coach. Jose Mourinho has shown in the past that this might mean absolutely nothing for everyone that's listening, but for me, I always think there's some sort of link. Mourinho has shown that he coaches and does well with Argentine players, no matter the club. If it's at Madrid with Di Maria, with Higuain, if it's at Inter, he won the treble, and the base of his treble-winning team were the South American players. It was the Argentines, and it was the Brazilians. And with Roma, I'm just thinking, well, if he goes to Roma, not only does Mourinho coach and does well with Argentine players, but he knows how to psychologically get in the head and motivate players. If you watch, the all in or all or nothing type of thing, the documentaries on Amazon with Tottenham when Mourinho was there, if you watch his interviews, he's a character. Mourinho is a character, but he's a character that knows how to get the best out of his players, right? For all the negatives that may have been said about him, and I've potentially said my fair share of them, he knows how to get the best of his players. And he's gotten that so far with Dybala. Case in point, Dybala comes on as a substitute for Roma in the Europa League and scores in the first couple of seconds. The old Dybala would that ball probably hits the post or gets saved by the goalkeeper. Not because Dybala is not talented. It's the luck. It's the luck. It's the confidence. And we're seeing a very, very different Dybala. We're seeing a Dybala where everything is sort of flowing through him, yet at the same time, it's a team game. He's able to express himself on the pitch. He's able to, do what Mourinho is asking of him. And he's delivering. Forget the goals, forget the assists. I'm very happy he's scoring, don't get me wrong, and I'm very happy he's assisting. But even if you put those aside, Dybala is still playing well. He's still playing very well. And I've spoken to a couple of Juventus fans at the start of this season, this week and last week, and they all said the club was crazy to let him go. Especially now when you see what he's able to do. So Dybala is finally hitting his stride. And we're seeing the Dybala that we know what he's capable of doing. We're finally seeing. And a lot of that can be attributed to, yes, a change of luck, a change of fortune, but I think a change of club as well. I think Dybala needed that change. He needed a club where he had a coach that really believed in him. And I don't think that was always the case with Juventus. And now he has a coach that believes in him, and he has a club that believes in him, because Roma really pushed to sign him. While he was constantly being linked to Inter, it was Roma that was pushing to get him. And they finally did. And he's paying them back on the pitch. Going back to Argentina and the World Cup. So he scores versus Italy, comes on as a substitute and scores. Comes on as a substitute against Estonia, plays very well. Doesn't score, and that's fine. Plays very, very well. And now we have the World Cup coming up, and we have the list of players, and Dybala's been included. Dybala's been included in this list of players for September for the two friendly matches in the United States against Honduras and against Jamaica. So he was part of the preliminary team, now part of the final team. And in all likelihood, and knock on wood, Dybala will be there at the World Cup as well. And it's funny because if you look at Dybala's numbers really quickly, just in terms of the goals, let's say, Dybala's only ever scored 3 goals for the national team. His first one against Mexico in 2018, his second one against Chile in 2019 at the Copa America, that third place match, and the third one, well, versus Italy. And those 3 goals, it's not, by his standards, it's not a lot, right? But if you consider his trajectory, his start and go, COVID, injuries, changing of managers, everything, if you take that into consideration, I'll accept the 3 goals. And I'll accept another goal at a World Cup from him. I would not say no to that. Now, my question to everybody here is, where would you play Dybala? Right? Do you start him on the wing? Do you start him in the middle? Do you start him in midfield? Do you start him as a left back, as a right back? Where would you play Dybala? And do you start him? So do you start Dybala? Do you put him on the bench? What do you do? Because now Coach Scaloni has a lot of options and a lot of great options. So he has a good problem on his hands because the talent is there. The talent is stacked midfield-wise, attack-wise. It's stacked. We have options. We have options. So where do you start Dybala? I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know. I would certainly use him as a substitute. I would not start him, not because I don't think he's good enough to start. Absolutely not. But just because I think Scaloni has a good team going on, a good starting 11, and bringing on a big game changer like Dybala can do wonders, can absolutely do wonders. Imagine a tiring back line or a tiring team, and you bring in a fresh, energetic, informed Dybala. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. And one thing as well that I haven't really touched upon a lot is his finishing. He's very clinical, be it first touch, being it a hit off a dribble, set pieces. He can score from long range as well. He could score a couple of goals from outside of the penalty area. And you'll need that at a World Cup if the ball's not going in, or if the team or the opponent is kind of just sitting back and constantly defending. Yeah, you need a strike from outside of the penalty area. And Dybala can provide that. Dybala can provide that. So, what do you do? Do you start him? Do you not? Where do you play him? Like I said, I would bring him on as a substitute. I think he can certainly win us a game if needed. I think he can certainly get us a goal, be it through an assist or the actual goal or in the build-up play. I think he can be massive for Argentina, and he is hitting his peak at just the right time, in my opinion. And honestly speaking, I don't think there's a better club for him right now than Roma. He is 28 years old. He's going to be 29 by the time the World Cup starts. In all likelihood, he will probably be in better form now than the next World Cup, assuming he gets selected for the next World Cup. So even for Dybala, this could be hey, this could be my last dance type of thing at a World Cup. Who knows? I could be very wrong, and Dybala could be there in 4 years' time. I'm not saying he won't be, but I'm just saying now is he's probably going to be in better form now than he will be maybe at 32. But time will tell. Time will tell. So that is Paulo Dybala's his career a little bit with the national team. Misses out in 2015 and 2016 at the Copa Americas. 2018 gets selected for what was a massive, I don't even know what the word is anymore. Just a massive problem for Argentina that was in 2018. Misses out on 2019. So the only real tournament he's played for Argentina was 2018, and that was not a good one for the team. Let alone Dybala. Forget Dybala. That wasn't good for the team. So now he has a chance to finally play at a World Cup, get some regular minutes. Who knows? He might even crack the starting 11. I don't know, right? We never know what could happen. But hopefully he's able to continue his form and play well and do well for Argentina. If you like what you saw, hit that like button, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and hit that notifications button to be the first person notified as soon as a new video drops. Once more, my name is Roy Nemmer of Mundo Albiceleste.com, and thank you for watching.